co-host.
Also, Shirley, if you wanted to summarize what Maria was just saying.
Sure, thanks. Bonjour tout le monde. So, nous dans session ça dans projet Faro. Nous toujours fait session nous dans différentes langues parce que nous voulons que tout le monde ait une chance pour entendre ça n'a dire et pour gagner information. So, aujourd'hui, on a parlé de bullying. Especially dans le travail avec harassment. So, tant qu'on a un problème dans le travail, que mon travail yo dit a rétalier sur après les ice pour sous dit sur yo si les a fait mal n'a dit ça au café avec l'autre chose nous parler de jeudi et moi je juste voulais nous connaître que nous t'ai fait session ça déjà dans espagnol so sous qu'on monde qui parle espagnol ou capable dire les cas joindre l'autre session merci.
Thank you so much. So I just want to start off by sharing how in my practice as an immigration attorney, along with Lourdes at NeighborsLink, we have occasion to work with a lot of individuals from places where they've experienced a lot of trauma, and it's very humbling work. I just want to share in the space that we really do want to help and do what we can for folks here now where they're safer. And it's really nice to participate in community events because we do like to hear from community members. So please feel comfortable sharing as well, not just having us lecture at you.
Thank you, Lily. So, ça c'est nous, jeudi à nous gain Lily avec Lourdes qui sorti dans organisation qui est les Neighbors Link. Et Lily c'est un avocat. So, lui dit, lui remet que lui gain chance pour travailler avec mon communauté immigrant yo. Et que lui connaît gain pile monde qui sorti, qui gain pile trauma, qui gain pile qui t'est arrivé yo avant. Et so, qu'on y a un espace yo ka parler sans yo pas besoin de peur. So, si ou on va vous voulez dire, s'il vous plaît, dis-nous, pas besoin de peur, pas besoin de peur, en canadien passé, et nous voulons tendre ça, ça dit, et pas seulement pour tendre ça, n'a dit. Merci.
Lourdes, do you want to just introduce yourself quickly as well?
Yes. So, like I mentioned, my name is Lourdes. I work in the legal department at NeighborsLink. I am hopefully soon to be an attorney, so I will be able to help with our mission in NeighborsLink. So I'm in the process, but hopefully soon.
Wonderful, congrats. So Lourdes, c'est li travaille dans NeighborsLink, li travaille dans département légal là. It's la study pour venir en avocat. So li presque fini étudier et then après ça la venir en avocat grâce à Dieu. So il est content il là pour parler avec nous.
We certainly give her the same amount of work as any attorney at our organization. So yeah, I think there's at least a few topics that we want to discuss with you this evening. I know that we had previously spoken at some length on bullying and intimidation in the educational context. And I think Lourdes is going to touch on that as we go through the presentation. But I do want to mention that our organization practices principally immigration law. So this isn't necessarily our specialty in education. So we're going to try and hopefully give you
muted. Oh,
Sorry about that. I don't even know how I muted myself. I didn't touch anything. Nevertheless, so just note that because it's not necessarily where we practice, that we're happy to answer any generalized questions, but we can forward those or tell you where to look with respect to more specific questions on educational related issues.
So, Lily dit comme ça, jodi a, nous parlons parler de bullying avec harassment dans le travail. And then Lourdes a touché na bullying avec intimidation dans l'école là. But l'école, c'est pas dans le département d'éducation, c'est pas un côté yo fort, yo plus travail avec moun pour yo lè yo gen problème dans le travail. So, but souvent question, nous pas qu'à répondre si tu pas connais ni pas connais réponse là ou pas besoin faire la demander à l'autre moun dans travail là qui connaît and then na vinn dire ça elle dit.
So can I ask Anna to present our PowerPoint, please? So yes, as I mentioned, we're both from Neighbors Link, which is an organization. It does all types of wonderful things in Westchester County, Rockland County, Orange County, Sullivan County, going up towards the northern part of the state. And one of our departments is, of course, our legal department, where Lourdes and I are coming from this evening. Next slide, please.
Oh, so you're sorti na Lourdes avec Lily sorti na organisation Neighbors Link là. And so côté yo pratiquer loi and présentation ça sous ça. Next slide, please.
So as I mentioned, we'll touch on a few issues this evening. Lourdes is going to first talk about your rights with respect to having an attorney and with immigration related matters and how to avoid notario fraud, which is sadly very common. And then I will discuss issues with your rights in terms of immigration agencies like ICE and also with law enforcement, local law enforcement, as in the police. And then Lourdes will cover intimidation and discrimination in the workplace. Next slide, please.
So, Lily avec Lourdes parler de gain en pile Ford pour avocat avec na immigration, and then après ça Lourdes va parler de ça pour faire sous un problème à la police ou bien sous un problème dans le travail. Next slide.
okay. So we'll start off with some things you should keep in mind when you're looking for a lawyer, an immigration lawyer in the United States. So this is very, so there's changes from where you are from, your country where you are from, and the United States. Very many Latin American countries, a notary can be a lawyer, but in the United States, a notary isn't always a lawyer. So that is something that you should keep in mind when you're looking for an attorney in the United States. A lawyer can be a notary, but not a notary isn't necessarily a lawyer. And when you're looking for an attorney, you should ask a lot of questions so that you know that the attorney is right for you. So there are many areas of law in there's many areas of laws where an attorney can practice the law in. So you want to make sure that they are well versed in immigration law, because immigration law can be very complex. So when looking for a lawyer, you should ask a lot of questions. For instance, how much experience they may have in immigration law or in cases that are similar to yours. You want to know that that attorney is right for you and that they will help you in your specific case. Another thing to keep in mind when looking for an attorney is to make sure that the contract that you are signing is in your language. And they do have an obligation to give a contract to you in your language. And make sure that the contract that you have contains the services that the lawyer is going to be giving you, and also how much that service will cost. Yeah.
Next slide, please. So, qui sa pou ou ta dwe konen lo ap chèche yon avocat. So, même kek bagay ki pou ki important ou ta dwe konen, right? So, nan un peu pays, spesialman pays panyol nan Etats-Unis yo, gen kote ke note a se yon avocat, men nan Etats-Unis on note pa yon avocat. Ou ka jwen yon avocat ki yon note also, but si yon moun just on note, so sa palve di yon avocat. So se pou mande yo si yon avocat. And then avant ou fè an yon avocat, mande yo eske yon avocat ki travay nan loi imigrasyon, paske loi imigrasyon si telman gen an pil bagay la dani, ou pa vle pon moun ki just di oui se yon avocat yo ye, and then okay, yo te al l'ekol, yo gen diploma l'ekol la li di yon avocat, but avocat de ki, right? Paske gen an pil bagay moun ka yon avocat pou, so pou make sure yo yon avocat pou imigrasyon. And then pou mande yo nan kes jan kes ou pale ya, combien moun yo te we ki te gen kes kom sa, yo te represente moun sa. Also, avocat a dwe bon contrat ki nan lango. Yo dwe fè sa se loi. Yo suppose de jwen an moun ki pou tradu pou yo mette contrat nan lango. And ou ta dwe pri description service. Oui, and nan contrat, you suppose di ki service yo pal ba ou and combien kob la piye. So yo baka di jodi yo di like $500, and then nan 2 semen anko yo di non e $700 sa ap kote yo. So yo dwe nan contrat, li dwe nan lango, and then li dwe di yo sa ya fe pou, and combien kob la kote. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so very often we see something called notario fraud. And so many of the things that I will touch on today will help prevent you falling victim of notario fraud.
So, un pil de bay nan pale jodi a, se pou pa vin victim fraud notario, paske gen an pil moun ki ap di oui se yon avocat yo ye paske yo se yon notary, but se pa vle, sa se pa vre, yon nou pa vle fè sa paske sou gen yon mouve moun ki ap ede yo avèk pa bay imigrasyon, li ka fè ou mèm avèk komyon plus mal ke sou pat gen yon moun ki te ap ede yo mèm. Next slide, please.
Okay, so some common things that you should look out for so you don't fall victim of notary fraud is if the person that is helping you in your immigration case is a notary public, a visa consultant, or immigration consultant. If they have any of those titles, they're likely not an immigration lawyer. So people who are allowed to help you in an immigration case is a lawyer or somebody called a accredited representative. So the Department of Justice has allowed certain people who meet certain qualifications to help in immigration matters, and that person is called a DOJ accredited representative. So people who are able to assist you in immigration matters would be an immigration lawyer or an accredited representative. So anyone that is called a notary, the ones I have just mentioned, those are people to look out for, because they could likely not be immigration attorneys, and they could be helping you in a way that could negatively affect your immigration matter.
So, gen deux moun seulement qui ka aide on en bail immigration. Ça c'est un avocat ou bien gen moun qui rele un specialist dans Department of Justice là. So, et celle yo même qui ka aide ou. L'autre moun, quand on moun note yo, y a dit que yo ka aide ou nan fil pour papier fil immigration, but c'est pas vrai. Ou pas une victime pour ça parce que y a just volé l'argent and then you pas payé. Next slide, please.
So other things to look out for to know if you are being the victim, or somebody's trying to take advantage of you in your immigration case, is if they make you sign a blank document without anything written on it, or giving you some false forms. If they take your original documents and they don't return them to you, or if they're charging you, to return your documents. Also, people who are identifying themselves as a lawyer, but they're not actually a lawyer. And another common thing is people promising you to help you in an immigration reform that doesn't exist. So they're in the news, you often hear about certain proposals of new legislation for new pathways to citizenship, but they are just proposals. They haven't been approved and they haven't been made law yet. So several people could take advantage of that and promise you an immigration relief that doesn't exist. So be aware of that.
Next slide, please. So, so dwe gade pou pa vin victim. So, gen moun ki ap kembe document original and then yap do ou bezon paye yo pou retourner ba ou. So, sa pa suppose fet. So, si yon moun fè sa, e pa un bon moun yo ye, e pou reporte sa. Gen moun ki ap mande ou pour just see un bagay, like un papier blank, ou bien en forme qui pas en bon forme, so ça pas supposé fait, ou bien un moun qui a pas accepté l'argent, and même là yo pas de bar service là, so you just do about l'argent avant yo bar service là, and ou bien ou buy l'argent and then you pas bar service là. Moun li bay manti nan deklare que li yon avocat autorisé, and then li pa yon avocat ou ka repote sa. And then dernièrement, gen moun ki kontande bay nan nouvel la, que gen de fois l'État ap diskite yon loi, ap diskite si yo ka pasel, si yo pa ka pasel. So, kouni a moun nan vin tande sa, li konen ou ka tende ou pa kompran jan ba la vin pase. So konen ale di oh oui, gen yon loi ki vin fek vini ki ap fel easy pou fè sa, but non, paske le ap diskite loi, li poko loi, e just yon ba la yap pale nan l'État. So until li vin yon loi mem, li pap ka ede yo. So, but gen moun ki konen moun pa kon sa, you just use by nan nouvel la pou ka bon manti, pou ka bay yo l'argent. So, si sou on bay sa pase, ou konen moun sa pa un bon moun. Next slide, please.
So one key way to protect yourself is to ask a lot of questions. You are allowed to ask questions to your lawyer or a potential lawyer. Ask them if they are licensed to practice law, in what state they are licensed to practice law, in what area they specialize in, and if they are an attorney or they say that they are an attorney in New York. There is a website where you can verify if they actually are lawyers able to practice law in New York. The website is listed on the screen. You can put their name, and if they are registered attorneys, then their information will come up. And the same thing can be done for a DOJ accredited representative through the website listed on the screen. So you can verify if they are indeed an attorney or an accredited representative.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So, avant ou vin gen moun nan ou pa moun nan pou vin avocat, ou suppose mande yo an pil question. So, sa pa gen problem a sa, ou ka mande yo question suppose. So, si kon ya, so question ka mande yo, eske yo gen licence pou yo travay nan État New York. Parce que même si yo avocat, même si yo gen licence pou yo travay nan Florida, moun ki travay nan Florida pa ka travay nan New York, unless you gen licence pour travailler dans tous les de New York avec Florida, like par exemple, but si you're dans New York ou dans New York ou supposé demander yo pour licence ça, si you're dans New Jersey, you're supposé gen licence New Jersey. So n'importe état dans États-Unis you're supposé gen licence pour travailler dans état ça. Ou ka confirmer information yo bao, right? You're supposé ba information de yo. And then soit nan deuxième, nan premier link ou sous computer ou ka gade pou wè si sa yap diyo la se verite. And then si moun wap travay avek ou se pa on avocat liye, se on moun nan DOJ on reprezentant akredite. So ou ka al nan deuxième link la. And then pour wè si sa yap diyo se verite. Next slide, please.
Okay, and so attorneys and accredited representatives have certain obligations for you, to you. They are obligated to explain all your legal options. They are also obligated to give you a contract which states the services that they will give you and the cost of those services. They should also give you enough time to read the contract before you sign it. And any payments that you give to them, they should be giving you a receipt with the amount of payments and what they're charging you for. And a lawyer should never make you sign a document before you had a chance to read it, or if you ask them more time to read it, more time to look over it and decide. They shouldn't be rushing you. They should give you that time to think it over, to read it and understand it before you sign it. And lawyers should also be informing you on your case, on any major developments in your case, or you have any questions regarding the status of your case. They should be giving you an answer with the questions that you ask, or informing you on the status of them. Next slide.
So yon avocat supposé expliquer option legal ou gen, right? So ou ka gen différentes options, you supposé expliquer ça. You supposé offrir avec yon contrat écrit qui ça yo pa le faire pour à combien service là a coûté ou. You supposé quitter temps pour li contrat, you pas supposé forcer pour signer kounya. So sous du ou besoin lili, you supposé bon temps pour l'île, and then l'autre fois l'or vin wè avec you encore. So kabayo, you supposé buy récit pour n'importe ça yo fait. So l'homme monnaie pour récit, you supposé ba ou. yon avocat pa dwe jamais mande yo si ou yon ou yo pa dwe mande yo si yon document ou te li ou soit pas li like yo pas supposé mande yo sous te li on document ou soit qui parti ou te li pour sous pas comprendre ça l'a dit ali supposé li pour so you supposé ba autant pour li and then you supposé li pour yo avocat pas dwe mande yo si contrat pour signer contrat tout de suite and yo avocat te dwe informer ou si wa répondre n'importe question elle est supposé dire like sou gen n'importe question il supposé répondre nous il pas supposé just quitter ça là il pas dire rien. Next slide please.
Okay, so I think I will pass it over to Lily now.
Great. So I want to talk a little bit about knowing your rights when it comes to interactions with Immigration Customs Enforcement, which is commonly referred to as ICE. You do have rights, and it's really important to know them, because if you don't and you make a mistake or you get nervous and you say the wrong thing, anything that you say can be used against you. And they do use those things against you. So it's really important to remain calm. Don't resist. If you're in public and you're approached and they start asking you questions, you do have the right to remain silent, and you should just ask if you're free to leave. Some things that make people a target for ICE, there's currently priorities that ICE has established through their new Secretary of Department of Homeland Security. And I can repeat all this too, because this isn't on the flyer or the presentation. But if you entered without inspection, meaning over the border or without a visa, since November 2020, that makes you a target, because they consider that a border issue and is a priority for ICE enforcement. Also, criminal activity can always make somebody a target for ICE enforcement, but those types of, that really depends on the totality of the circumstances. So it used to be that there were categorical crimes that would make somebody a priority. These days, it's far more generalized. So they'll do a review of criminal history and make a determination of whether or not they want to target somebody. And then, as always, there's the threat to national security, which of course is any type of terrorist or espionage-related activities that somebody might be involved with that would make somebody a target. If you want to try and translate that, I can certainly help in repeating myself, because I know that was a lot of information.
Right. No problem. Thank you. Can we go to the next slide, and then when I'll coordinate with you. So konen dwa lo si ICE vini pou yo pou yo pale avel. So gen dwa le wap community avec ICE pour rete calme avec pour pas résister pour yo arrêter yo. Si en public ou ka mande si ou libre pour aller, and then ou gen dwa pour just rete silence. Si ou nan travay ou, so ou gen dwa pour rete silence, ou pa besoin di rien, n'importe sa yo mande yo, pa repon yo. And then pa repon yo justan, yo rele on avocat pour. So just di, like, ou vle pale avocat, and then tan sa. Sou la kayo, ou pa besoin ouve pot la. So yo ka vin frappe nan, police ou bien ICE ka vin frappe nan potou, yo di pou ouve, ou pa besoin di rien. And then mande pou we on avocat. So gen bay ou ka fe ki ka mete ou nan priorité list ICE yo. So tankou si avant Lily, it was before October 21st?
It's November 1st, 2020. So if you've entered unlawfully after that date, you're a priority for enforcement.
So gen de bagay ki fè ou priorité pou ICE vin pran konya. So depi Novembre 2020, sou te entre sans papier, année 2020, sou te entre sans papier, y ap chèche ou konya pou yo pran, parce ou priorité pou yo. Sou te fè anken kriminal, ou bien by terrorist, so konya y ap definitely ale pou yo al chèche ou. And it was, what was the third thing, Lily? I'm sorry.
Threat to national security.
Yeah, threats to national security, criminal, and 2020.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and then dernièrement sou fè anken anyen tankou bay terrorist ou di ke yo ap fè anyen pou sécurité peyi ya. So y ap definitely fè an priority pou yo vin pran. Next slide, please.
But I just, well, I'm going to
Okay.
just go off the slides here for a second because I
Sure.
want to make it clear that it's not like ICE is just wandering around willy-nilly harassing and arresting a bunch of people. Generally speaking, if someone is arrested by ICE, it's because they've specifically been flagged to ICE because they have a recent criminal conviction or something. There's millions of undocumented people that technically could be arrested by ICE that are freely and happily walking around. So I don't want to instill fear in people and thinking that this is something that commonly occurs.
Okay, thanks. So nou pa vle diyo sa tankou pou moun ap vin pe, pou moun like, you know, vin pou sa vin fè pe. Paske gen pil moun ki pa gen papye, ki ap mache, ki yo kontan, ya viv yo la. So si ICE gen non papye, sa vle di yo te target ou paske on bagay ki te vin rive, ki vin met non sou papye yo, right? So si te fè on bagay kriminal, ou bien on bagay vin pase konya yo ka we, yo vin kone, non, en yo vin kone ou pa gen papye, e pou sa yap vin chèche ou. Paske gen pil moun, yo isi lontan, pa gen yon ki vin pase yo. Lily?
Generally speaking, for ICE to target you or for you to have direct contact with ICE, it's because they've located and apprehended you at a United States border, or you've committed some type of offense and it's been flagged to them through the Secure Communities program.
Oui, so deux jan ICE ka really vin pran, se si ou te nan border ya, ou ta eseye pou vini, ou ta eseye pou vin la, yo ka fè ou rete, yo ka pran la. On lot jan yo ka pran, gen yon bagay ki le Safe Borders Act, you said?
It's a Secure Communities program, but
No.
which is basically just a federal information sharing platform where if someone's arrested, that information is shared with federal authorities, including ICE, so they'll know about arrest.
Ok. So, gen yon program nan Etats-Unis ke si yon ba vin rive pou vin arete yo, gen lot, so menm si yo arete yo nan Spring Valley, so tout lot polis, Department Police nan Etats-Unis ap kont sa, yo kap gade nan database la, and also ICE kap gade pou yo we. So si le yo met bagay yo di, ok, moun sa pa gen document, apre yo vin arete yo lan, e kon sa apre non pou yo al chèche. Lily?
But aside from at the border apprehensions and criminal related apprehensions, the likelihood of just randomly being arrested by ICE is pretty rare and uncommon.
Oui, so si yo pa vin pou nan border ya ou bien ou pa arete, yo pa on moun ki te vin arete, chance pour yo ta vin pon la, really piti. So, seulement si really sou, gon problem, yo vin arrete ou bien, ou gen an rezon pou polis la, polis vin pon, pou yo arrete ou, sel la sa yap, na database, yo. Lily?
And ICE just doesn't have the resources to arrest everybody that legally they're entitled to arrest.
Okay. So, like, même là, yo ta vle arrêter an pil moun, yo just pa gen kont. Police, yo pa gen kont. Tan pou yo ta arrêter an pil moun, paske yon gen an pil moun nan Etats-Unis ki pa gen papye. So, yo pa gen l'argent kom sa, pou yo ta arrêter tout moun, yo te ka arrêter. Lily, sorry.
Yep. So just remember that you do have the right to remain silent, and they can lie to you and try and get you to say things. So they might tell you something that makes you feel compelled to share information, and it's quite possible that they're not being truthful because legally they're allowed to do that. So don't be tricked into telling your immigration status when lawfully you don't have to share that information.
Okay. So, first of all, ou gen dwa pou just pa di anyen. Pa di anyen men. Parce que gen fwa yo kapab fè, yo kap bon manti, yo kap diyon bay pou yo fè pou fè ou komanse pale, and then lò komanse pale yo wap gen problem. So, ou gen dwa nan Etats-Unis, ou gen dwa ou pa bezwen di moun ki status immigration, ou pa bezwen di sou gen residence, ou pa gen residence, ou pa bezwen di anyen. So, le ap mando, même le ap mando, yo ka ba ou manti. And so, just pa di anyen. So, really pe, just mande pou an avokat seulement, and then pa di anyen anko. Lily?
A good rule of thumb when dealing with law enforcement, and this includes local law enforcement in addition to federal ICE authorities, is just asking, am I free to go?
So, on bon bay pou konen le on moun polis tapou, même le moun nan se polis lokal, ou bien moun ICE, n'importe. Le yon polis tapou just pou mwade yo seulement ezo ka bale, right? Like le yo pale avant, ou just di eske m ka bale s'il vous plaît, and then sa seulement, pa besoin di an yon anko.
So if you start, if ICE says no, you're not free to go, then just tell them, I want to exercise my right to remain silent and I want to speak to a lawyer.
So si ou mwade yo SM kabale, yo di non pa kabale, so then di ke wap ou gen dwa nan Etats-Unis pou pa di anyen, ou pa ve di anyen, et nou seulement vle pale avek an avokat, ou bien avokat. Right? So gen an avokat, ou ka di ou vle pale avokat. Really?
So, and you have the right to refuse a search. You can say, I do not consent to a search.
Okay, so si yo vle chèche nan machin ou bien yo vle chèche, like, yap gade so gen nan poch ou bay kom sa, ou ka di yo non, ou gen doa nan Etats-Unis pou di non ou refusye sa. Really?
The same is true most of the time in local police interactions, that you don't have to consent to a search. But if the police have a suspicion that you've committed a crime, sometimes they don't need a warrant to conduct a search. But you can always say, I do not consent, because if it's an unlawful search, then that can be brought up by your attorney later.
Okay. So, le an polis tapo, like polis lokal, so pou ICE ou ka di sa, but le an polis lokal rete yo ka mande pou yo chèche nan machin ou chèche sou, bay sa yo, ou ka di yo toujou non pa vle sa, So, si yo di yo suspect que ou te fait un crime, yo ka use ça tant qu'on raison pour yo chercher. Mais toujours, même là ça, même là yo dit, oh, moi suspect ou fait un crime, m'a checker. So, just, même si yo dit ça, just di yo non, right? Ou yap still fait, but make sure ou di non, pas vle ça, parce que si yo cherche machine ou yo cherche ba yo pour sans raison, ou ka mener ça dans court pour ça appeler. Oui.
Don't lie and do not show false documents. That's just going to get you in more trouble. And it does. I have it happen with clients all the time in both immigration and local police context. This is really problematic, and it ultimately is not going to help you.
So, si yo arrête ou bien si yo stop ou, pa bay manti, pa bay document qui pas vrai, parce que même la police, même la ICE, so si ou bay un document, so c'est pas vrai document, ou bien ou bay un menti, so ça vient faire bay la plus mal pour plus tard. So just pa bay menti, pa bay document, just pas dire rien, just demander pour un avocat. Oui.
Next slide, please. Oh, are you already there? Sorry,
no.
can you go back one? Let me just... Okay, yeah. So if you are arrested, don't resist. That also applies in the local context. That's resisting an arrest with local police is a crime in and of itself. So you don't want to do that. Sometimes people even accidentally like elbow a cop and then get an assault charge thrown in there. So you don't want to resist. It's just going to make things more difficult for you.
Si ou yap arrete ou pa resist, pa ba yo problem pou yo arrete ou, paske so sa son ba illegal, si polis la ap ese pou arrete ou, and then pou ba yo difficulté pou fè sa, so sa ba plus problem, so just kite yo arrete ou.
Don't sign anything. Don't sign anything. Don't sign anything. Don't sign anything. I don't care what they say to you. They will try and trick you to sign a deport order. They'll tell you all types of terrible things. Just remain calm and tell them you want to talk to an attorney and that you're exercising your right to remain silent.
So, si yo arrete ou patient. Même là, yo dit que oui, vous supposez signer, ou si vous signez, y a quitté ou. Allez, bah, ça yo, menti. Patient, depuis ou pas un avocat, si avocat dit oui, ça va. Mais avant parler avec un avocat, et then avant avocat, li ça y a bawa, patient, rien.
I can't tell you how many times I visited a client in a jail who just talked to ICE, and ICE told them, hey, we're here to help you. We'll get you a visa, just admit that you're undocumented and that you just tell them you did this crime. We'll get you a witness. We'll get you a witness S visa, total horse. SHIT, you know what I mean? They're not there to help you. They're not there to help you. They won't help you. They're trying to deport you. Don't tell them anything. Don't sign anything. I don't care what they tell you. They can talk to your lawyer if they really want to help you.
So, patient. Yap di ICE ka konvini yo di moun o ede ma pede yo, souci sa mka di o te gen problem nan pe yo. So when you na video pran visa by sayo, ya bon n'importe menti. But n'importe sayo diyo lan, se menti about pasi rien, and then pa kwe yo le yo di ou yo vin la pour pour yo aider ou parce que yo pas là pour aider ou. Si yo te vraiment vle aider ou, yo t'a parlé avec avocat ou. But also, c'est pas job yo pour yo aider ou. OK? So, job yo c'est pour yo arrêter ou pour yo déporter ou. So, n'importe ça yo di ou pa kwe yo, and then pa kwe yo vini pour aider ou, and then pa si an. Really.
And just to touch on something Maria said earlier, people feel powerless a lot when they're around figures of authority. And that's completely understandable. I just really want people to feel more empowered and not so small or like they don't have rights, because you do. And just because someone is, barking at your face and trying to get you to sign something doesn't mean that you're powerless. You can stand up for your rights, and you should.
Yeah. So, on va nous just veut dire encore, gen de temps, gen de fois, ou ka pense que ou pa gen anken pouvoir, ou pa gen anken bay ou ka fait, parce que parce que ou pa gen papier, ou bien n'importe salier, parce que moun nan se, ni nan en position qui gen plus pouvoir, but ou toujours gen droit dans États-Unis, so pa, ou pa besoin vin peur, right? Just songer que ou gen droit nan pays ça, moun pa ka, même l'on pa gen papier, yo pa ka just fè n'importe ça yo vle avec. So, met ça nan santé ou pour pa bliye ça, pour pa kite yo intimide yo. Really?
If you think that you might be a target, I would recommend memorizing a number so that if you are arrested, you know somebody that you can trust and who you can call once you're in a facility.
Sou pense que ou yo ka vin pon pour anken raison, gen, e pou gen yon moun tango yon moun nou ka kontak, so pou gen numéro moun sa nan tetou, so sou bezwen le numéro téléphone nan, parce que y a pran cell phone, y a pran tout bagay yo. So, ou suppose gen yon numéro ko ou sonje, ou ka rele moun sa, ou ka pala ave, ou ka kite yon message, pou yo di yo kote yo ye, pou yo ka vin ede yo. En pou yo ka rele avokat la.
Next slide, please.
The next one.
I think we can skip that, yeah. So, if you have a loved one who is arrested by ICE, you're gonna wanna use, I think, can you just go back to, so people, if they are looking at the slides, they can take down this link. Because there's a way using someone's A number, you can put that into, along with their name and date of birth, I think, you can put that into this online search tool that ICE utilizes, and you should be notified of where they're being detained. That's another reason why it's helpful to remember a number, because obviously you can just tell somebody where you are, but sometimes people just disappear, right? And their loved ones don't know where their family or member or friend is. And that's the way that you can check to see whether someone you know has been detained by ICE.
Okay, so I have a question. What is the A number? I'm sorry. I thought I explained it differently.
Sure. So an A number is generally a 9-digit number that begins with the letter A, that's issued to anyone that has entered the United States, has been issued status here, or who has been arrested by ICE. So it's basically it's an alien identity number or identification number. We don't like to use that term, but that's where the A comes from.
Thank you. So, ou bien un numéro, yo ba un numéro qui gen 9 numéro la dan, yo ba ou le ou fek entre na États-Unis a se numéro alien, tankou sougan alien 4, ou bien le ICE arrêté ou yo ba ou numéro sa. So, lor le moun ou apre le ya, ou ka bay yo, avant, sou panse yon moun ap, yo ICE ka vin pon, ou ka bay moun numéro, nan fami ou bien nan zami yo, numéro sa, so that way si yo pa well, yo ka cheke. So sou gade na online, on ba kele locator.ice.gov, so you ka la na internet la, pou yo we si ICE gen yo, paske yap mette e number, yap mette non avec date de naissance ou, avec pays de naissance ou, pou yo ka we si ICE gen yo. Si yo pa tande yo pou kel tan, yo ka fe sa, ou bien sou ele yo ou di yo konsa ICE vin pon, yo pa konen koto ye, ou bien ou men ou pa konen koto ye pou di yo ka mette numero sa na internet la, and then yap lab di yo koto ye. Really?
Also, if you don't have the A number, you can always just search with their name, date of birth, and country of birth, because sometimes you won't know that information.
Okay. Sou pa gen numero e number ya, yo kapab just met non avec date de naissance ou pou yo chèche yo. Avec pays
So if-
pays yo. Oh, sorry. Avec pays yo ou sorti ya. Go ahead, Lily.
So if somebody has been arrested by ICE, if they're not subject to what I'll call, automatic removal, which sometimes happens with people that already have removal orders, those people will be placed into removal proceedings.
Okay. So si ICE vin pon, and then yo poko ba moun ki yo yap retourner la kayu, like immediately, parce yo pa gen tan komanse yo komanse process la, so kone ya vin komanse, and ya vin komanse pou yo mette yo nan, on ba eke le removal proceeding, so sa vle di ya komanse pou yo retourner nan pe yo. Really?
That means that the government is trying to remove or deport you from the United States, at which point you should try and obtain a lawyer and submit some type of application you might be eligible for, so that you can try and defend yourself and remain in the United States on that basis.
So, le yo komanse proses sa, ou ka mane pou avokat, sou pat gen an avokat deja, ou bien si ou gen an avokat deja, ou ka mande avokat la, and avokat ap eseye pou yo ede yo pou we si yo kapab rete proceeding sa, pou kapab, pou yo ka we si yo ka rete nan Etats-Unis.
This number at the bottom of the screen, the 1-800 number, that is a hotline for the immigration court. So if you have your A number, you can call that number and input it, and it will tell you when your next court hearing is before an immigration judge.
So see you go on A number, and then you, this is for people who have already been arrested and in the process, Lily?
This is for anyone that's in removal proceedings. So not everyone that's in removal proceedings is detained. There's plenty of people that are not in detention, but are still facing removal proceedings.
Okay, thank you. So si yo komanse proceeding na pou yo retounen la kayo, ou kapab rele numero telefon ki na an ba papye a, numero telefon 800-898-7180, ou ka rele numero sa, and then ou ka mette numero A number la, numero alien number la, and then l'a di ki lot le pou retourne ou besoin retourner al wè judge là, right? Yeah. So if they have to go see the judge, it's important that they don't miss that date, correct?
Yes, in fact, if you miss even just one hearing, judges can issue an in absentia removal order, which means essentially that you've been ordered removed from the United States for your failure to appear at court.
So li important sou suppose ale nan court ou pou ale, paske sou pa ale lò suppose ale, judge la ka ekri yon bagay ki di ou pa vini, yo te di ou vini ou pa vini, so kon ya definitelyman yo suppose remove nan Etats-Unis pou yo retourne nan pe yo. So sou gen yon court date ou pa, même si ou peut aller anyway, parce que si ou pas aller, ça va un peu problème. Si ou aller, ou ka gen yon chance. Mais si ou pas aller, so ou ferme toute porte, ou te ka gen. Really?
And I skipped over this, but if you do see or witness an ICE raid or ICE arresting someone, you should call the United We Dream hotline and report it, so that people can keep track of when this happens, so that other non-citizens can be informed about whether or not they're potentially going to be a target or subject or vulnerable to that type of activity.
Okay. So sou ta we on raid ICE, ou sou ta we on pil moun ICE vini, non yo kote pou yo al pran moun, ou ka rele on organisasyon ki ele United We Dream. So ça veut dire nous rêver ensemble. Ensemble nous rêver, pardon. Numéro de téléphone ça c'est 888-363-1423. And then ou ka dire que au moins m'te wè ven ice là nan quartier, y a m'te wè yo, ramase moun pou yo mette nan autobus yo. And then so organisasyon sa ap alert lot moun nan quartier pou yo ka konen pou yo ice nan kote ya. So yo kapab pa gen problem. Really?
Next slide. Or two slides.
Yeah.
should say.
Hold on.
So as I spoke about a little bit earlier, with respect to local law enforcement, which of course is different than immigration law enforcement, which is a federal agency that deals exclusively with non-citizens, aside from some other very small portions of the ICE agency. But their primary component is dealing with the removal operations and ICE enforcement. But local law enforcement is just your run-of-the-mill police officers, local police, state troopers, things of that nature. Again, you have the right to remain silent. It can ask you for your identification. You do have a right to speak with an attorney when you're dealing with law enforcement. So again, that just goes along with the right to remain silent. Again, don't lie. That causes more trouble. And you do have the right to document interactions with law enforcement, as do passers-by or people standing around, as long as it doesn't interfere with enforcement operations. So that's why we've seen some of those horrific videos of people being killed or harmed by police, because you are entitled to do that, and they should, right? Because there's a little bit more accountability when this type of thing is caught on camera.
So, là ap deal avec police. So, if I just police ICE, but lot police na nan kote ou rete ya, ou gen dwa pou just pa di anyen, ankor. So, n'importe sa yo mande ou ka di, gen dwa pou pa repon, so, sa rele Fifth Amendment, so map just use dwa Fifth Amendment, mwen ya, mba di anyen pou mdi. So yo ka mande yo pou identification. I'm sorry, if they ask for an identification, you have to show it to them?
So I think in New York, you're not required to carry identification, but officers have legally are allowed to try to identify who you are, and they may arrest you if they can't verify who you are. That doesn't generally happen if, for example, the police are just stopping me on the street, for example, because they think I may have witnessed a crime. I wouldn't just give a police officer my identification, nor would I have to. But if you're in the middle of committing a crime, or they think you've committed a crime, sometimes it makes sense to give them identification because they might arrest you if you don't for other reasons. So it really depends on the basis for the conversation. If they're just asking you questions and they're not considering arresting you, that's completely different from when they've stopped you and because they think that you may have just committed a crime. That changes. So it's safe to just ask, am I free to go? And then you can kind of determine whether you're being detained and what the nature of the situation is. Because otherwise, if you don't know, then you don't really know what your rights are in that particular situation. Most of the time, if they're not going to arrest you anyway, they'll just let you go. So it doesn't hurt to ask that. And then if they say no, you should really remain silent.
Okay. So la yo mande ou pou identification, so gen diferent rezon yo ka mande ou pou sa. So si yo panse ou moun ki te just fek fe an krim, then definitely ou konen ke like sou gen identification li pi bon pou ba yo li paske you ka arete ou sou pa gen, especially si yo panse ou fek fe an krim. But si you have just pale ave ou bien pale ave ou yo mande ou sou te fek wè sa, tankou si te gon de moun ki ta batay la, and then yo mande ou eske ou te witness, ou te wè moun sa yo, ou te temwen moun sa yo le yo batay la, so ou ka di, ou ka pale ave yo, and then si yo mande ou pou identifikasyon, and then ou ka di, esko ka ale, right? Ou bien, paske lesa yo pa fawouche yo telman, and then si yo do non pa ka ale, so then just ankor pa di anyen. Ou gen dwa le wap pale avek on polis pou mande pou an avoka, pou avoka ka ede, so ka di just di like, mpap di anyen, just de pale avek avoka. And then, but definitely pa bay police la manti. And then ou gen dwa si ya fawouche ou bien ya fawouche lot moun, ya intimide ou an kenayen pou ka rekod sa sou telefon nou. So ka we koun ya gen pil moun, ou gen pil fwa on bay pase, on police a fwa bay yo pase ou zefe, and then moun met sa nan telefon yo. So de nepot de vous pas like tangu ou pa vini pou stop yo, pou fe yo arrête sa ya fe, ou gen dwa pou rekode yo. Thanks. Lily?
Yeah, so of course with non-citizens, this goes along with the right to remain silent. Don't tell them you're not a citizen. It's not going to help anything that's happening. So don't do it. You don't need to show them like your foreign passport. The only time you're going to have to show an ID is when, they're trying to positively ID you and they've suspected you of a crime and you're at a whole other level of the situation. If you're getting arrested though, remain silent. You don't have to tell them that you're not a citizen of the United States. Just tell them you want to talk to a lawyer.
Okay, so n'importe sa ka pase, just si yo tankou, si yo pa arete yo, ou pa bezwen di yo konsa ke yo pa un citizen, just ou pa bezwen di anyen, just di yo vle pale avek an avoka. Si ou pa bezwen montre yo pasport, ou pa bezwen montre yo anyen, le wap, sou wap gade yo a fe an bagay mal, ou pa bezwen, so sa va vle di ou kounya pou wap di yo, oh, ou konen pa gen, pa bezwen di anyen, pa bezwen montre yo anken papye, just pa di anyen. Si yo ap arete yo, then still pa di anyen, just money pou an avoka. Oui, oui.
Next slide, please.
Next.
Sorry, Lourdes, I've eaten up quite a chunk of time.
Oh, I can go quick in this. Okay, so a common thing among immigrants is that they believe that they don't have any rights in the workplace, but that is not the case. Everyone has rights in the workplace regardless of immigration status.
So gen bay ke problem imigran gen, yo panse ke paske yo pa gen papye nan Etats-Unis, ke yo pa gen doa, but sa se pa vre. Tout moun, menm sou gen papye, menm sou pa gen papye, ou gen doa lo ap travay nan Etats-Unis.
So everyone in the United States has rights in the workplace, which include having fair compensation, having safe working conditions and working environment, and having a workplace that is free from harassment and discrimination.
So tout moun nan Etats-Unis gen doa dan kote yo travay, yo gen doa pou moun peye yo, right? Ou pa suppose, like sou travay pou yo do yo pa peye yo. Ou gen doa pou kondisyon nan travay yo pa mette an danje, right? So ou gen doa pou travay an kote ki pa ke travay la pa fe vin blese, vin gen mal. And yo ou gen doa pou moun pa vin diskrimine sou, ou bien pa arase ou bien pa fon mal nan travay la.
Okay.
Next slide.
Okay, so one common way that immigrants are affected in the workplace is by wage theft. So wage theft means that you are being underpaid in your wages.
So, an jan, yo fè an immigrant e ke yo vole l'ajan. So, tan kou sou travay, ou travay pou 42 tan, and then kounya yo suppose pay yo tan kou $400, but yo seulement yo ba 300 ou bien yo ba 350. Même si yo ba 399, so non, même $1, yo pa suppose vole nan l'ajan. Suppose about $200. Oui, ap retire tax sou li, but yo pa suppose retire plus que ça.
So common ways that wage theft happens is by denying overtime pay. So in the United States, any work over 40 hours, an employer is required to pay the employee 1.5 times the regular hour wage. Right.
So, sorry, do you want to finish? And then,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
so, on lot jan, yo pon l'ajan sou. So, first of all, mwen just ve di, seulement sou gon on bay ke ya bon chèk, est la seulement yo pay tax. Si e kache ba ou pa bezwen pay tax sou sa. So, on lot jan yo vole l'ajan moun, se tango sou travay, ou travay pou 48 tan, pou tango $9, kounya sou travay plus que ça, sou travay overtime 50 tan, you suppose yo bo $9 plus moitié, right? Moitié 9 lan. So you suppose to bo tango, okay, so yo usually yo pay yo $10, you suppose to pay yo $15.50, right? So si yo pa bo l'ajan jan, yo pa pay yo jan, so yo suppose to pay ya, e vole sou. Lourdes?
Okay, so another way the wage theft occurs is by paying below the minimum wage. So the minimum wage in New York State depends by the county that you live in. So if you're being paid under the minimum wage, that's another way of wage theft.
So, on l'autre jan, yo vole l'argent pa ou, is que gen on minimum wage, like, ça c'est moins l'argent on compagnie ka bay an moun. And so, ça dépend de kote nan New York ou ye. Tankou sou nan Rockland li on cob, sou Westchester li on lot, sou al nan City a li on lot, right? But n'importe sa liye a, li suppose ou ka, li make ou ka wel. So, si yo bon moins que ça, so ça c'est on jan y a volé sou parce que yo pas supposé bay moins que ça. Right? Li gen le minimum nan, so ça veut dire ça c'est yo pa ka bay en bas ça. Yo ka bay plus, but yo pa ka bay moins. Lourdes?
Yes, and another way is tip stealing. So if you are an employee that is paid through tips, another way is for them denying you your tips, which could be through credit card tips that are used through credit card that are not shared among the employees that are supposed to receive those tips.
So, on la jan yo ka vole, tankou sou travay on kote, que yo ka pay yo a tip. So, tankou sou travay nan restaurant ba sa yo, koun ya gen de fwa le ap travay sou restaurant, restaurant fel, so gen de moun ki mette tip yo tankou sou credit card yo. So, koun ya ou vin pa we l'ajan nan men, but and then yo pa do sa, yo pa do, oh, moun nan te bon tip $5, you just pa do yon yo kembe kob la.
And another common way is to misclassify employees as independent contractors. By doing this, they are stripping employees of certain rights that they would normally be entitled to. Regular employees would be entitled to minimum wage, safe working conditions, an environment free of discrimination, whereas independent contractors are not guaranteed these rights. So by classifying them as an independent contractor, then they are denying them those rights that they would normally be entitled to.
So, on la jan yo fel, yo di kon sa ki yo pa mette otan kon employe nan kompanya, yo mette otan kon on moun ki gen kantwa independant. So sa vle di, ou travay, ou fè un travay pou kompanya, but ou pa travay pou kompanya men, ou travay pou tatou, paske ou gen kontra independant. So yo fè sa pou yo pa bezwen bo, yo pa bezwen bo l'ajan jan yo suppose ba, yo pa bezwen bo proteksyon jan yo suppose proteje yo la. Lourdes?
Next slide, please.
The next one.
Okay, so a way to prevent wage theft is by recording your own hours. You don't have to leave that up to the employer to do that. You can do that on your own. You could save any text messages that you have with your employer. And if you are being, if you're someone who is experiencing wage theft, you could always stop working with that employer and report it to the Department of Labor for New York State or whichever state you work in.
So, on jan ou ka proteje tet pa ou ka met kembe on bagay ki di kombien tan ou te travay, pou a bezwen tan pou moun wap travay pou yo fè sa, ou just ka ekri sa pou kontou, and then kembe nepot le employer moun nan, yo te voye an text, yo te di an kenan yen, tanko yo di oh, mba gen tout kob la pou mpe yo kounya, mpa pe yo respita, ou bien nepot sa yo di la, and then nou ka file an complaint na Department Labor nan New York la, pou yo kapab investige employer. So, can they do that anonymously?
No, I believe that you have to, your name has to be in there so that they're able to investigate. But I would check with the New York State Department of Labor website just to make sure. But I believe that it would have to be, they would have to identify themselves.
Okay. But okay. So yeah, so uka diyo sa uka just al na Department Labor na website la, and then u just eki pou di sa moun ap fe. Okay. Lourdes?
Yes, and it's also important to know if you signed an arbitration agreement when you began working. If you did sign an arbitration agreement, that means that you can't bring your case before a judge and a jury. You would have to go before a third party, would be an arbitrator, and he would decide. The arbitrator would decide the case.
Okay. So si lors te avant de commencer travail là, yo te fait aussi un papier qui est les arbitration, un agreement arbitration. So ça veut dire que si vous avez un problème, ou pas aller devant un juge, ou pas aller devant l'autre monde qui est un arbitrator. And then pour moun ça, qu'a décidé ce qui j'en va la parler.
Yeah.
Qui j'en case la parler.
Yeah, and next slide, please. Yeah, and it's also illegal for your employer to retaliate against you if you make any complaint. This could include for making a complaint about your wages, your working condition, or making a complaint that they have discriminated against you.
Okay. It's also illegal pour sous player ou te dit comme ça que ou te dit on va employer boss la tap faire, yo pas supposé yo pas gen droit pour yo retalier sous, yo pas gen droit pour yo prendre ça pour yo harasser. And yo pas capable terminer travail là, yo pas discriminer sous, yo pas faire rien pour ça. So ça c'est un droit qui protège aux États-Unis, même l'on pas gen papier.
And forms of retaliation can include being fired, being disciplined, or being treated differently in your workplace because you made that complaint.
Oui, Jean yo capable, encore Jean yo capable, ça yo pas supposé faire, so li pas, yo pas gen droit dans États-Unis pour yo faire ça, yo capable, yo pas supposé terminer travail là, yo pas supposé faire discrimination pour ou bien agir avant on l'autre gens, tant qu'on mauvais gens, ou bien non gens yo pas travailler avec l'autre monde dans travail yo.
And as of October 2021, there is a new law in place where using your immigration status to extort you or coerce you into doing anything, into doing something or not doing something is illegal in New York.
So, commencé de dans octobre 2021, li konya li illégal pour moun di comme ça, ou sous pas faire ça, ou bien sous pas faire ça, ou bien sous tant que sous faire fâché by ça yo, y après les immigration pour ou, right? So konya si moun nan di ça, li même qui a nan problème, recorder ça l'a dit parce que c'est un bagay qui a mettel nan problème. Li pa mettre un problem. Lourdes?
And the last thing I'll mention about employment is that if you do file a complaint about your for wages, for wage theft, or if you are illegally fired, you can be entitled to back pay, which means the employer would be required to pay you any lost wages.
So, si on boss wap travay pou yo fè n'importe nan sa yo, so ou ka fil, ou kapab sou yo, ou ka fil an lawsuit pou yo, so koun ya, tankou si sou te, so sil de septem, lè sa yo te vin, yo te di ou vin kite travay la paske yo te fache paske ou di yon bay, ou te fè an complaint sou yo bay sa yo, ou bien paske si le yo di yo fè un bagay ou bien y ap rele ay sou ou di non yo pas supposé fè ça ou rekorde yo ou di yo kon sa son bagay ki illegal bay sa yo. So koun ya an septem yo fò kite travay la. So même le ou al fè un lawsuit sou yo bay la vin fini en janvier. So tout l'argent ou te perdu commencé en septembre pour y arriver juste dans date là, yo supposé payer tout l'argent ça. Tant que te travail.
Yeah, next slide, please. Or 2 slide.
Okay.
Oh, next. Is it?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the same one.
Anna, the next slide.
Oh, then
What's that?
we just went through that one. Oh, you can go to the next.
The next one after that.
Maybe it's not. Okay, and now I'll talk a little bit about education in some rights that you have in the educational environment. So under the New York State human rights law, it is illegal to discriminate or harass students in public schools. So recently, New York human rights law used to not include public schools, but as of 2019, it includes public schools. And under New York State human rights law, discrimination against certain groups, which includes race, religion, age, disability, and also national origin, that discrimination in those bases is illegal. Yeah.
So, loi pour human rights avant ça pat couvri moun nan l'école éducation, but kounya yo vin couvri li, gen yon loi ki ele DASA, nou te fe on gros programme sou DASA. So DASA se on bay ki te le dignité pour chaque étudiant. And li bay moun ki nan l'école, ti moun ki nan l'école publique li yo, yo suppose gen un environnement qui pa gen discrimination avec harassment la dan. So li protège ti moun yo. Lourdes?
Yeah. And also, I like to mention that in New York City, it is illegal to or unlawful to discriminate somebody because of their immigration status. And that includes, that's in workplaces, housing, and public places. So if you live in New York City, your immigration status is protected.
So sou nan city New York lan, ou nan Manhattan, Brooklyn, sa yo, so yo pa suppose diskrimine sou nan l'école ou bien kote ou ap travay lan ou bien kote ou viv. They can discriminate against you from getting housing.
Yeah, in housing, employment, in public areas.
Yeah. So, yeah, kote yo pa ka use sa pou pa ka loué yon kay. Yo pa suppose diskrimine nan tout kote sa yo nan travay, kote ou viv, n'importe kote public, l'école and l'école publique. Lourdes?
Yeah. And under the Dignity for All Students Act, all students are entitled to a school environment free of discrimination and harassment.
So, na act dignité pour chaque étudiant, yo tout étudiant, tout ti moun l'école, supposé yon kote yo ka l'école ki pa ge, yo pa ge problem, moun pa diskrimine sur yo pa harasse yo.
Thank you. And we're close to out of time. So the last thing I want to mention is that we are not affiliated with New York Human Rights, but they are having a webinar next Wednesday, I believe, February 23rd at 5:30, aiding lawyer rights in the education. So if anybody is interested in that, I can provide that information to Proyecto Faro, and you can register. It's open for the community, so I believe anyone can register for it.
So, nou pa afiliye, nou men Proyecto Faro avek organisasyon Neighbors Link, nou pa afiliye avek organisasyon ki ele New York Human Rights, men y a fe un program lot mekwedi ki a pale de rights nou genyen. So, sou ta vle enregistre pou sa, Lourdes ka kite link lan avek nou, and then nou ka ba ou li. also, moi vle di nou ke jeudi kap vini an, nou pal gen on program ki rele an tout voix konte. Nou gen chak sorry, not jeudi, lot mardi. Mardi sa kap vini an, nou gen chak lot mardi. Li gen le tout voix konte. La pale pou 7h pou 8h. And nou pal fè an gros prezentasyon pou DASA pou sa. So DASA e li menm ki proteje ti moun ki nan l'ekol. So sougon ti moun ki al nan l'ekol Israel Po ou bien nan lot l'ekol. S'il vous plaît, vini pou nou ka bo informasyon, pou nou ka pale avek community. Lourdes.
Yeah, and then the Division of Human Rights, they are allowed to investigate allegations of discrimination, which now includes public schools. So if you are experiencing discrimination in public school for, like, let's say national origin, which can include you speaking a different language, or you coming, or are you having a different native country, you could file a complaint with a Division of Human Rights and they will investigate that.
So kounya DASA vin proteje moun ki nan l'ekol publik. So sou gen anken problem ou gen anken moun kap arase ou kap bouleverse ou kapab filon on bay pou sa pou l'État New York ka kon sa pou yo ka fe bay sa vin rete pou l'ba vin pase ou anko ou bien pou l'ba vin pase ti moun yo anko. And so yeah, so now nou gen droit sa, nou gen loi sa. So si sou gon problem nan l'ekol la, ti moun gen problem nan l'ekol la, s'il vous plaît, di sa. Parce li pa bon pou l'rete kon sa. Gen pil ti moun ki, ale yo tuye tet yo li vin affecte yo really mauvais, en mauvais jan. Parce ti moun nan l'ekol ap amekde yo. Lourdes.
Okay, I think that's all for tonight. Yeah, that's
oui, so nou konen nou ba an pil informasyon jodi an. So li sou tape, li sou Facebook Live, ou ka toujou, tande lankor pou so te perdu an, and then ankor sou nepot lè ou ta vle pale avek nou pou ek for la pou pale sou gen anken kwestyon, and then si nou pa konen repos lan nou ka pale a Neighbors Link, and nou kapab napran repos lan and napdo. So we know we've said a lot today. You can always look back over it online on Facebook, on the Facebook Live. And also if you have any questions for us at Proyecto Faro, please do let us know. And if we do not have the answer, we can contact Neighbors Link and get the answer to you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Lourdes and Lily, so much.
You're so welcome.
Yeah,
I
thank
hope
you
that
for
we
that.
provide some information that people can use. Have a
Yeah.
great night, everybody.
Thank you too. Bye, everyone.
Thank
Good night.
you. Just want to
Bye.
remind folks also that next Tuesday is the Your Voice Counts Haitian Creole session regarding DASA. Some more details on that. And then the following Monday, Anna will be covering DASA in Spanish. So thanks for everybody's patience tonight. Shirley, if you can just translate that for folks.
Sure. So, mardi kap vini an, nap gen on tout vos kwenta, tout va konte en Creole, and nap pale de DASA, and then pa lundi kap vini an, parce sa se jou prezident, sa se jou tout moun off. So lot lundi apre sa, ap gen yon en Espanyol ki le tous vos cuentas, and Anna a présenté en Payol pour yo parler de DASA aussi. So nap gen deux par DASA sous parler créole. S'il vous plaît, vini l'autre mardi, la 7h puis 8h, pour nous ka bon information DASA pour ka protéger ti moun nou yo. Yeah.
Great. So Thanks, everyone. Have a great night, and we'll continue to see Lourdes and Lily again. We're building this great relationship with Neighbors Link. Thank you so much for all the information that really helps to empower our local community. So,
Thank you, Liz.
bonsoir.
And Maria, bonsoir, and Lourdes.
Bonsoir.
Bye.
Hi,
everyone.
everyone.
Okay.